Thank you so much. Namaskar. Good afternoon to all of you joining us physically here in Mumbai for the Festival of Wellbeing organized by Business World, the second edition of it. And also welcome to those of you watching us on NewsX today, the official media partner for this event, and also on the digital platforms of BW. It is but fitting, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen, that the first session post-lunch is on mindful eating. Ironic, interesting, but it will lead you to ask, did you mindfully eat your lunch just now? So let me get started and quickly go through the panel on their thoughts on the topic that we're meant to discuss, and then of course we'll take that forward into other verticals of this conversation. But let's begin by Chef Amrita talking to our viewers and our audience about what you feel is mindful eating and whether you believe mindful eating is the true path to healthy living.
First of all, very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you, Uday. Thank you for this lovely introduction, and thank you for inviting me for this absolutely mindful conversation. The lunch you were talking about was very well planned, and it was a very healthy meal. So I really don't think that in that ironic sense, anybody is feeling less energetic after eating the sattvic amazing meal. I know I got a run of the menu, and I think even Chef Vicky made a few changes. But on the whole, it seemed really, really wholesome, something that will not make you fall asleep and will make you enjoy this conversation. Mindful eating to me, Uday, is actually a combination of a few S's. Sitting down, having a smile on the face, being soulful about your food, just being a lot more thoughtful. You shouldn't be distracted. You should not be, I know we all say that meal times should be family times, but as I have, really dug deep into this whole eating healthy, eating mindfully, I just realized that even if it is family time, we should all be quiet during eating. We should pay more attention to our food rather than having conversations. Conversations should be before and after meals. But really thinking about your food, eating every bite, thanking God for giving us that meal. And we all know that there is a lot of scarcity of food also. Some of us are actually suffering with abundance of food, but there is a lot of poverty out there. People don't get two meals every day. And that is why we really have to be thankful for that plate of food that God has provided us. And just knowing that, to me, is mindful eating. And appreciating that is mindful eating.
Chef Vicky, let me come to you next. What does mindful eating mean to you? What does that, the term stand for? And also, do you believe that this is the key to healthy living?
I think I'll echo a few things what Amrita said. Thank you for having me here today, and it's an honor to be here. I think mindful eating is actually thinking twice before making a meal plan, a menu for me in my life. Planning what you want to eat. It's not like, I don't want to call it an introspection, but I'm just talking about eating to give yourself energy, eating to feel happy, eating to feel satisfied, but conscientiously. I think overeating, excess of fats. So I think at the end of the day, everybody knows what is really good for them. It changes with everyone's constitution of everyone's person. So I feel that mindful eating is paying more attention and listening to your body and actually asking yourself what you really want. That's what I think.
Okay. Let me take that to Sunil, and you were a chef, so I'd like to address you also as Chef Sunil. Of course, now you're a restaurateur. But Chef Sunil, your thoughts on mindful eating, and it's often said that you can exercise as much as you want, but if you don't eat right, you're not going to be fit, you're not going to be healthy. So do you believe that the key to healthy living is mindful eating?
Thank you, everyone, and what I feel in terms of what mindful eating is, first thing first, one has to understand why is it that we eat. And coming from there, is it necessary for it to, I'm being in the business, but I'm asking this question whether it is necessary for us to eat three meals or 4 meals in a day. Mindful eating, I believe, is also understanding not only what you are eating, but what your body is, how your body is behaving to what you are eating is also something. So mindful eating is not just while eating, not just before eating, but after eating is what it does to your body. Because you become what you eat, literally. So I feel that mindful eating has to be taken in a whole aspect of what and why, and what your body, how your body behaves to what you eat. I'd not take too much time on this, but yeah, I would certainly like to say that, in terms of other thing, that mindful eating, which Amrita also said and Vicky also insisted on it, is that you have to be, interacting with the food as much as you can while you are eating it. That's extremely, extremely important, because these days what is happening is that either you are on the phone or your eyes are somewhere else, or you're in front of your TV. Even if you're eating good food there, it is actually mindless eating, not mindful eating. So that's about it.
Okay. Before I ask you a quick follow-up question, I want to just digress for a second and ask our audience here, could we please have a round of applause for our panelists, and I'll tell you why in a second. Okay. Well, they've enjoyed the applause, but I said that for a different reason. Obviously, there's a lot of energy in the room. There's a lot of energy in the room, and that was evident with your applause. Post-lunch, normally we see this, and not just in India, but we see this across the world, and that's what Chef Amrita referred to, that the menu today was designed that you feel healthy and you don't feel sleepy after lunch. But what happens very often is that a lot of people feel sleepy after lunch. In fact, there's a culture in Spain and a few other countries as well of a siesta. So is that immediately related to the food that they eat, perhaps just at lunchtime, not so much breakfast?
No, I really liked what Sunil said. Food is also what it does to you, how your body reacts, responds to it, and how you feel. Do you feel like really crashing after the meal is your clear indication that you have either eaten too much or you've eaten food that does not suit your body type. And really expanding on that mindful eating, you really need to know, I know there are a lot of these fads going on. We all are guilty of it. We all follow it. And I will change my name if anybody in this room says that they have not followed a single diet ever. We've all fallen prey to it. I have also done the GM diet. So I know that. But the fact is that it's really not the diet you follow. You have to understand. You have to be mindful about your own body. If you are not allergic to gluten, you don't need to have gluten-free food if that's the fad going on. If milk suits you, you must have a glass of milk. So you just have to be aware of what works for your body. And I would like to contradict one thing that you said, because this is really something that everybody should know. It's really not just the food we eat. Exercise is equally important. And that is a reason why children, active children I'm talking about particularly, why children are as slim and lean despite eating all the goddamn chocolates of the world. There is a reason, because their metabolism is high. They run, they're active. You'll never see them sitting around. And I'm not talking about couch potatoes. But that's where we go wrong. We think, we've aged, we should slow down. No, it should be opposite. You start aging because you slow down. So never slow down, because if you keep your metabolism high, then once in a while, a little golgappa here, a little chocolate cake there, is not going to do you any wrong.
But there are these trends, Vicky, and some of them, of course, people need to, get on to them because of health reasons, of becoming gluten-free, of going vegan. But these are trends as well. Intermittent fasting, other diets. Should we blindly adapt to these trends? Do you follow some of these trends? Do you incorporate them, perhaps because you know that it can work for you commercially? What's your take on trends?
See, I'll tell you about gluten-free. Okay, I love bread. I love bread. I bake very often. But let's go back about 30 years ago. I mean, we ate as much as wheat. We ate chapatis, we ate different kinds of bread. We were big consumers of wheat. Now, the problem is that when the GMO wheat started, where you had as the bad wheat, which used to happen. I'm not like the heirloom wheat, there was emmer wheat, the khapli atta, which I'm talking about. So there were no really celiac or gluten deficiencies in those days because the wheat was different. People ate seasonally. People ate fresh things. There was not much refrigeration happening. It was almost like a farm-to-table movement. There was no, farmers could not afford pesticides and all that, so everything was organically organic, So in those days it was different, but now because of technology, I've got nothing against that, but with technology, with GMO stuff, all your products which are coming in terms of protein, in terms of dairy, in terms of everything. Everything is multiplied by 10x in terms of time. Everybody wants everything earlier. So nowadays I see the gluten thing happening. There is a lot. I personally choose cleaner flours. I'm saying like even the bread in which we make, I use the top quality flour which is available. There is a difference. I don't feel bloated and get gas as much as that. So I think it's all about following trends. As you said, your body tells you what it happens. If you feel there's a bloating happening, there is something which needs medical attention, sure, you follow it. I mean, nowadays it's very easy for a dietitian
Yes.
to recommend. You stop eating dairy, you stop eating wheat, you stop eating sugar. And obviously you're going to lose weight. It's like a shortcut which is given to them.
True. No, but there's also a lot more awareness now as well. Of course, because of the internet, but because the calorie breakup is there for all to see. In products. So Sunil, come in there on this awareness and also how restaurateurs like yourself can aid and abet mindful eating. And perhaps you're doing that as well, with Fab Café, which is, trying to make healthy eating cool, I guess.
So, Uday, I would like to break it down into two parts. The restauranting part I'll come to later. The first part being technology catching up. So, when it comes to food, and I'd like everybody's attention here that, why there are a lot of technological developments which is happening in the food industry where from ultra-processed processed foods, we are going towards food which is less processed, which is more healthier, where, the brands or the labels very clearly are saying, no additives, no preservatives. In fact, the technology, okay, so, 50 years back, 70 years back, you would have never thought that we'll be able to fry a potato, put it in a packet, and then have it after 2 months. I mean, you'll be killed for it if you'd said that. Today, as we speak, for example, Mother's Kitchen as a company where I am a proud co-founder, and Shebani here is my partner there, and she's the person behind Mother's Kitchen. For example, what we are doing there is we're doing freeze-dried food there, which is food which is given to the astronauts by NASA, for example. And that what it does is it retains the 97% of the value of the food, and it is as good as fresh. It can stay for good 5, 7, 10 years. In fact, depending on the packaging, it can go up to 15 years as well. Now coming back to so what I feel is that today businesses will be forced to kind of, and when I'm saying this, I'm talking about the FMCG industry, will be forced to ensure that the labels are clean because it's a matter of time, there will be an app which will read the ingredients and which will tell you, listen, this is what you are eating and that this is the problem. You might get cancer or you might get, various kind of diseases. And in fact, lot of, in the morning I was hearing, which was very, very true, that, earlier the problems were related to outside circumstances in terms of, the deaths and all, whether it's malaria, whether it's plague. Today, most of the deaths is happening because of what you are consuming. And ultra-processed food is a big part of it. I won't take much time answering your second question in terms of what we are doing at Fab Cafe to ensure mindful eating. So when it comes to for me, when it came to menu planning, I was very sure that, wheat is considered as a culprit, primarily not because, there's anything bad in wheat, but gluten happens to be a sticky protein which kind of carries a lot of, pesticides and insecticides that you're putting into the ground, which becomes a carrier. That is one part. Yeah. So in Fab Cafe, we are, for example, we are keeping away from wheat as much as we can. Not doing refined sugar, not doing refined, refined oils, for example. Yeah. So, I think it is our responsibility as chefs also to kind of, and I'm speaking for myself, and that's what I've done at Fab Cafe, is to ensure that, even if people are not being able to eat mindfully, what they are getting is what I would eat when I was eating mindfully.
And I think that's the, that's the myth that our panel is attempting to bust, that mindful eating or healthy eating doesn't mean uncool, or doesn't mean, that you're eating just ghas phoos or just, eating the bare minimum, what is not living life. You can mindfully eat and you can obviously be cool and you can eat it in a cafe as well, as you just said. Now, you're obviously trying to do that with your burger brand as well. Now, the perception about burgers is that it's unhealthy. But can you make a burger healthy? And
absolutely. I mean, you know what? I'll tell you, there are two parts of the story. When I tell people, listen, I have a gluten-free burger for you. We've got vegan mayonnaise and we've got the... No, we want the fried chicken. I said, okay. So we have that as well because that's what But on the other hand, yes, all my lettuce is sourced from an hydroponic farm, including my tomatoes. My food cost is over the roof, but I still want to make sure we get chicken which is from a very good quality. Everything is temperature controlled. We're using some really good technology like, vacuum packing, sous vide, and all that. It's like a chef's kitchen. You won't tell it's a cloud kitchen for a burger joint. So I think even in that, when you plan the menu nowadays as a chef, and she would say that, you have to keep in mind the health factor, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a party at home, whether it's a conference, because you have a lot of people who are actually conscientious about what, and as a chef, I feel proud that, we are spreading a message of good food. It's not just about greasy spoons and, fried food and all that. There is a real trend. That's what we are doing. So I have a lot of menus which are non-breaded. They all cooked on the grill. We, as much as possible, use minimal fat in cooking our burgers. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't say it's 200% healthy, but definitely much healthier than the other players.
Yes. Now, sure. Amrita, you're also widely followed on social media and by a lot of mothers, of course. Now, how can we inculcate healthy eating, mindful eating in our youth, in our children? Should it start from home? Do schools have a role as well? Do colleges have a role as well?
I think it begins at home. And interestingly, when I started my chef's journey, like I was telling you a little while ago, I was telling Sunil, it started because the day I became a mother, Agastya turned me into a professional chef because I was on a mission to feed him healthy food without him spitting it on my face. It was as simple as that. And I succeeded, and I took it forward to my show, Mamika Magic, and now I've taken it forward to my social media. I have my YouTube channel where I specialize in cooking for children. through various playlists, whether they are toddlers, whether they are little older children. There is another playlist called Hostel Diaries for, our youth who are going into hostels. How do they fend for themselves? See, for me, first things first, you need to teach them how to cook. Yeah. You need to get them into the kitchen. Till the time they're not responsible for creating that plate of food, it could just be putting food for themselves, just serving for themselves. That's also taking responsibility of how much food you're putting in your plate. I think that is the first step of healthy eating. Eating too much is wrong. You could be eating the healthiest of salads or the healthiest of meals, but if you're having too much of it, you are not eating healthy. Yeah. That's first thing. Second thing, for smaller kids, I always believe, turn junk into jewels, hide them. Hide them in a way that they don't need to see, because I've always said it, I've said it in my TED Talks also, that children don't have the time to sit and understand that this is good for your brain and this is good for your head and this is good for your mind. They don't give a damn. They want to eat, they want to run, and they want to play. Yeah. So what do? You hide your jewels into their junk. Okay. You want to use nachni, you make a nachni pizza, and you call it an Angry Bird pizza. Turn it into the shape of an Angry Bird. You make a pasta cake, but fill it up with beetroot and fill it up with carrot puree. And you do that magic, and that's how you ensure and inculcate healthy food in the children.
Now, this is also the International Year of Millets, and that's something that we in India should feel very proud of. Like yoga, perhaps it's time for millets to go global as well, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has played a huge role in this. And in fact, we should feel very proud, because all the G20 heads of state are going to be coming to India, and they're all going to be eating meals made of millets very soon as well. So, millets, India cuisine. We talked about it on a show on NewsX recently on how to take Indian cuisine global. Millets can play a role.
So, I tell people that millets, we used to call them ancient grains, but I think they are called grains of the future now. They are going to be spreading wide, and especially with the kind of properties they carry. You feel energized after you eat them. They are gluten-free, once again. And the versatility of the millet. Anything which can be made with rice or with dals can be done with millets. So we've all contributed to this book, which was supposed to be launched by the Prime Minister. It's called Milletology, where you have chefs from all parts of India and some chefs from out of India who have created this book. I think it is definitely going to be in everyone's houses. We've been eating jawar and bajra and rajgira and all for many years, but most of us didn't even know it was called millets. So I think now, and I'm sorry to say, but it's everything which goes abroad, it becomes a trend. We try to follow it that. Look at turmeric, look at coconut oil, look at yoga. I think we were centuries ahead of the rest of the nations. True. So I feel for sure, in fact, in this menu today, I insisted to put millets. So,
yeah, I saw that. Sunil, your thoughts on this very briefly, and then we'll wrap up.
So, as Vicky correctly said, that it's a lost ancient grains. They carry one of the highest sources of protein as well, and with technology and with current machineries and all that we have now as a processing industry, can be done into various snacks and all. So yes, we ourselves, we don't make a wheat ka, we do a kuttu bajre and ragi ka papdi instead of just a wheat ka papdi. So yeah, I do believe in millets. In fact, I do believe in ancient grains that we've been using. It's always.
We believe in it, and perhaps it's time now to get the world to believe in it as well. The expertise of our panel is so vast that we started at lunch, post-lunch, and we can continue pre-dinner, but we won't, because that's all the time we have. There are a lot more interesting conversations as well coming up at this festival. I have to end though with a quick rapid fire. भाई मुंबई आए हैं तो rapid fire तो बनता है. इतना प्रभाव तो film industry का यहाँ आएगा ही. So let's have a quick food rapid fire. Are you ready? Okay, so first, please take your mics. And first quick question, favorite cuisine?
Indian.
Japanese.
Favorite restaurant?
Wasabi.
Too hard to say. But I think memorable is Kesar Da Dhaba, Amritsar.
You know, it's my baby though, but believe you me, I eat.
No, you can't say
at
Fab Cafe.
much more than anywhere else I do. I'm
Okay,
serious.
okay.
I mean, as a chef, it's very, very difficult for one to kind of, explore
Okay,
places.
you're going to stay loyal.
eating.
First dish you ever made?
Dal chawal, aloo ka bhujia, tomato ki chutney. It's a typical Bihari dish. I made it when I was 8 years old, and that was something that I learned from my mother.
I made the worst aloo jeera in the world when I was a Boy Scout. Everybody spat on it, and I was not invited to the next camp.
Khichdi.
Okay. A recipe which was a favorite of you from the family that you may have inherited from your family?
Oh, very good question. Curry.
Okay.
Mom's Sindhi curry and mom's biryani.
There are many of my mums that I have learned, but my mum's bread and egg pudding, it was her signature dish, and almost becoming my signature dish. Almost.
Okay. Favorite food city, if I were to ask you?
Amritsar.
Amritsar and Lucknow.
I think Amritsar, no doubt.
Okay. And finally, if I were to ask you, if someone from the audience perhaps were to decide to invite themselves to your house this evening and say, what's your go-to recipe, something you'll cook for them in a jiffy, what would that be?
Not talking about my freeze-dried products, because actually you can make food within 2 minutes. But yeah, so
Okay,
I love to eat.
he's really, very loyal to his products, you can tell.
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
So mom's kitchen product is what you'll serve them.
I have some, I just marinated some chicken breasts this morning, so probably a nice grilled chicken breast with
Okay.
some...
So now you have more than a reason to ask him to invite you over this evening. Amrita, last
You know,
word.
interestingly, Indian food takes a little longer to cook if you really want to serve it to guests, and Western food is actually quite easy to whip up. So everybody loves my roast chicken and a nice side of lots of green vegetables. As much as I love my non-veg, I love my greens. And it'll always have a nice side of rosemary potatoes, perhaps. Probably a strawberry or a mango crumble for dessert.
Okay,
I
amazing.
actually want to just add one bit of the millet bit because it's really close to my heart.
Yes.
Because 14 years ago, I think I was one of the first people to have made that ragi pizza. And nobody had heard of ragi then.
Yeah.
It's become a fad today. But the reason why I'm saying it, that I'm very proud of it, the other reason why we should really encourage millets is because it's really easy to grow. Every poor farmer can also make it. It doesn't need pesticides, it doesn't need too much water. So we must actually encourage that also just to help the agriculture of our country. And like Vicky very rightly said, it is really versatile. You can make dosas with it, you can make muffins with it, you can make cookies with it, you can make the world with it. You can turn it into an exotic meal, and it can be as simple as a desi porridge. So please don't ignore it.
Absolutely.
And try and include it in every, at least
that's
one meal a day.
Very good point you made. Farmers are the backbone of our country. We've recently seen this unseasonal rain has not been very kind to them. So support them and make the International Year of Millets a success. And here's to a healthier and fitter India. Thank you all so much for joining us today.